Hello and welcome back to the No Huddle podcast. Last time, if you checked out the previous pod, you saw someone who looked a little different than me. That was Jonah. He is going to be covering college football for us once a week. I'm hoping we can get a little more college talk in because I'm going to be honest, I'm not the greatest expert on college football, but that guy knows a lot about college ball. So I'm hoping you guys are appreciating that and loving that. But other than that, it's a phenomenal sports day today. We have NBA tip-off an hour from when I'm recording this. We just had a doubleheader on Monday night. And for baseball fans out there, we just had the World Series confirmed yesterday with the Blue Jays and the Dodgers, which should be a fun series, even if the Dodgers are definitely probably going to win. I don't watch the most baseball, but all I know is that they have like $2 billion spent on their players, so they're probably going to win. But anyways, it's me. You know we're not going to talk about no baseball here. We'll talk basketball in a little bit, but I don't know enough about basketball to start talking about it pregame. But what I do know is a little bit of NFL football, and what a week we had here. This was such a huge week in terms of what I like to call clarifying, because through the first 6 weeks, I'd argue that we knew nothing about most of the teams in this league. But week 7 gave us a lot of clarification. We saw a lot of teams who we had suspicions about being bad really look bad this week. And we had some teams that we weren't sure about if they were going to be good or not. Some teams that had huge games when it terms to proving themselves. And it's safe to say they answer the call. We will come to those in a little bit. But right now, we are going to talk about the Monday night doubleheader last week. And we're going to start with Bucs versus Lions. Bucs versus Lions. A bit of a disappointment, I'm not going to lie. When I saw this game on the docket, I was like, okay, we might be in for a really fun shootout here. We might be in for Jared Goff has been an MVP candidate the last few years, and he's played awesome. I thought we were going to have a little bit of a light show between him and Baker Mayfield. But instead, we got a statement game by that Lions defense, who after last week against the Chiefs really looked rough. They came out, even with all the secondary injuries, even with their one, or Rock Ya-Sin, who I don't know if I ever thought Rock Ya-Sin would get this much coverage on a national television broadcast, but they were talking about him for what felt like a good 5 to 10 minutes, which I was surprised about. Even with him going down with injury, they were still able to find a way to make huge defensive plays time and time again. And for the Bucs, it was one of the worst games out of Baker Mayfield we have seen in a long time. I don't know about his entire Bucs tenure, but that was not a great one because he did not look right. He looked off. He had I counted about 10 throws where he just threw it too high. It didn't look right. Or he just missed his guy. He had a different read wide open elsewhere. He just wasn't thinking it through. Whether it was just with the Mike Evans injury, which that one was really rough. Whether he just didn't have some sort of connection with his receivers, something the Lions threw at him that he didn't expect. Overall, not a great game out of Baker. And for Mike Evans, I'm going to touch on this. It's really unfortunate. He was coming off a hamstring injury. This was his first game back, and he suffered a completely different injury, which is just so unlucky. He suffered a broken collarbone that will keep him out for most of the regular season. So for the good news for the Bucs is that they will have him, or at least initial reports. I feel like injury reports are usually very generous when it comes to when the player will come back. But initial reports are saying that he could potentially be back for the playoffs, which would be huge. It would make Tampa a lot more of a threatening team with him out there. But it's so unfortunate. The 1,000-yard streak, which is one of the most impressive feats in all of football. The fact that he's been doing this for the last 12 years of putting up 1,000 yards in a season, it's a testament to his ability to stay on the field as an Iron Man, a testament to consistency and solid production for so long, the thing that will get him in the Hall of Fame. It's rough to see that end. And was a fluke injury. He caught what was an insane 50-yard deep ball pass, and as he was coming down, he just landed on his shoulder and his collarbone wrong, and that put him out, and that took out his collarbone. That's unlucky. There's nothing you can do about that. Just like the Fred Warner getting rolled up last week. It just sucks. Football is that type of game where any given play, something minor can go wrong. And just like that, you're going to be out for the next 2 months. It's a killer injury. It's one that the Bucs can recover from whenever Chris Godwin hopefully starts looking like he did a few years ago or 2 years ago prior to that fibula injury. They need him to recover. They need him to look like the old Chris Godwin ASAP if they want to keep this division lead. They need Emeka Egbuka, who's coming off the hamstring injury and really didn't look like himself. You could tell he was pushing. They need him they need him to keep doing what he'd been doing prior to. It's something that 100% they can recover from. Tez Johnson looks good. They have another receiver named Johnson who's actually been pretty good too. Sterling Shepard. Like, they have pretty solid bodies at the receiver position. So it's something that's not going to hurt them in like the regular season, I think, too bad. But it sucks because he's such a fun player to watch, such a passionate player. Him and Baker had such a good connection the last few years. So it just sucks. For the Bucs defense, it's solid enough. Giving up an 80-yard run to Jahmyr Gibbs is absolutely killer. And you could tell that was the big gut punch that the Bucs just never recovered from. But Jared Goff was limited for most of the game. Their passing offense was fine. For the most part, like, they just couldn't stop Gibbs at all. And the Bucs offense had no gas to respond, so it didn't really matter what they ended up doing. Todd Bowles, some of his blitzes this game were so nice. Like, you could tell just Jared Goff was just looking and it was like, shit. That's not going to work. So he single-handedly killed a few of their drives, but if they got anything out of their offense, I think they had a shot in this game, but the way that offense looked, it just didn't matter. The Bucs will recover. It's exactly what I said about the Lions last week and how that was pretty on the freaking money, that they just played a juggernaut team in the Chiefs and that like everything was going their way for Kansas City. So it's not like they had much of a chance in this game. I'm getting not that the Lions were like playing like a juggernaut, but I just get the sense that it's just a rough game. You bury the tape, at least for the offense, and you come back to it next week. This is not an indictment on the Bucs as far as this game goes. It's just a rough loss. And it was a loss they were kind of due for with all their injuries and that absurd record. For the Lions, what a comeback game. You get put on national TV twice in 2 weeks. The first one, against the Chiefs, you don't look good at all. But this time, on national TV, the one Monday night game that most of the country can watch because it's not finishing at like 1 a.m. like it was here with freaking the Texans Seahawks game. That's a different rant entirely. And they looked so good. Big classic Detroit Lions vibes that we've been getting from the last few years. Just run the ball, put him in the dirt. Jahmyr Gibbs was awesome. So many explosive plays. That defense, that secondary was actually playing great. They had pretty sticky coverage the whole game, which is a shocker. Just doing this with backup corners. That culture with Aaron Glenn last year, how he was able to do it with a whole practice squad defense up till the divisional round. Their new DC, whose name is escaping me. I'm so sorry about that. But sort of a similar vibe from last year, like just patchwork secondary, doesn't matter. And they're still able to get it done. Why? Like I said, that DC. And two, that defensive line is starting to look really, really good for Detroit. Aiden Hutchinson is looking like a beast. He's constantly finding a way to mess up the play. They welcome back Aleem McNeil, who is one of these guys who I feel like the casual fan doesn't know, but he got paid last offseason, and there's a reason for it. He's so good in the run game. And the Bucs really, they couldn't do anything in the run game. Rashad White, who'd been having a solid few weeks, had no room in this one. Plus, that whole offense for the Bucs just, again, was not working. Big takeaway, Detroit did just have a bad week last week. They're very much back to being one of the best teams in the NFC, one of the best teams in the league. That is not changed. That I don't know why. If anyone overreacted to that from last week and thought it actually did, they're crazy. And for the Bucs, again, just it's a bad week. You bury the tape. That Mike Evans injury is bad. If he comes back for the postseason, hopefully all is well. Sucks to see the streak end, but it's something the Bucs will recover from. I think Baker Mayfield will be back. Maybe he's not in the MVP discussion as of right now, but I think he'll find himself back in it again because he has been that good this season. And as the Bucs as a whole will recover. Next game, the Titans and the Seahawks. Now, I am living in Chicago. It's the first time I've lived anywhere outside of California for college here. And I knew games being pushed back would be a little different. Like instead of waking up on Sunday mornings to football, which was a tradition I loved to do with my family every week. Instead, it's I wake up and then I chill for 2 hours and then I watch football, which is like whatever. It's just different. Sometimes the night game on Sunday finish a little late, which is a little unfortunate, but outside of that. But I don't know what absolute troglodyte. I love that word. I don't know whose call it was to put a game that in theory was supposed to be pretty good and not being, in fairness, but to put Texans Seahawks at 9 p.m. Central. Oh my God, that was let me tell you, it was a struggle trying to get to the end of that game because it's a weeknight. I'm tired. I have class tomorrow, the next day, and I'm sitting here watching the Texans offense get destroyed until like 1 a.m. It was an interesting experience. And touching on that Texans offense is so bad. It's so bad. I had this short I posted a while ago. Didn't end up doing as well as I wanted to. But it's literally, I just said the Texans offense is bad. Their offensive line is bad. Their running game is bad. C.J. Stroud was bad. Everything's bad. And it was before they were playing the Ravens and they put up 44 on them because that was the Ravens team that had literally no one. And I mean, yeah, they're still all bad. That take from a few days ago or a few weeks ago was pretty accurate. Still very accurate because that Texans offense. I mean, they traded their best player on that offensive line last year with Laramie Tunsil. Yeah, because, sure, everyone gives up franchise left tackles for nothing or for a couple picks because that's smart. It's not, especially when you have a franchise quarterback you need to protect. They really can't run the ball at all. Again, that offensive line, it's not like Woody Marks is a not talented player or Nick Chubb doesn't have something left in the tank. But there's nowhere for them to run. So what does it matter? That Texans defense was trying to keep them in the game for so long. The amount of clutch plays they had where that defense should any normal defense gives up 40 in that game and lives with it. Because the Texans offense would hold the ball for maybe a couple minutes at a time and just I want to curse and just mess it up so bad. It felt like every time the Texans defense finally I made a clutch play. Here, take the ball. Do something. Nope. Okay, here's the good news. I made another clutch play. It doesn't matter. Take it back. So it was just I'm sorry. I'm just laughing so much at this game because this was such a stupid game to watch. That Seattle team for the Seahawks, I felt like their entire team was drunk. Cooper Kupp threw a pass, and it was just complete dog shit. And it was the easiest interception ever. And Sam Darnold threw one, and I don't know what any of their turnovers made no sense. And it just didn't matter because the whole time they knew our defense is pretty good, and their offense is so bad that it just wouldn't matter. That Seahawks defensive line, I'm going to remove the smile off my face because they scare me. That Seahawks defensive line is so good. The last 2 weeks they've played the Jags and the Texans, and I think the broadcast they made a good comment. I think they got 17 QB hits on Trevor Lawrence last week, if I remember correctly. And this week they probably eclipsed that number. That interior defensive line combination of Leonard Williams, Byron Murphy is nasty. It's so good. And then having DeMarcus Lawrence on top of that, it's killer because Leonard Williams is one of the best interior pass rushers in the entire league. But just that whole Seahawks defense is really they looked good early, and now they're really starting to get into form by giving up 12 to Jacksonville, and then what should have been 12 to Houston if their offense wasn't high out of their goddamn mind. Sam Darnold, who is on an MVP track, he's playing so good this year. I think prior to this game he had a 94 PFF grade or something insanely stupid like that. But he didn't have so when he was on, he played really nice. He had a few really, really nice throws to JSN, but not an absurdly great game out of Darnold. He certainly played a lot better throughout the most of the season. And like I said, the whole offense just didn't look right. This is a game where my analysis is so limited just because exactly what you saw on TV is basically what it was. The Texans offense is rudderless. There's nothing. I had a take last week that it's if the Texans offense can finally do something, if you can get 20 a game, right? Because we saw against Tennessee, they were able to get more than 20, and against the Ravens, they were able to get 40. And I'm like, okay, maybe there's something positive here. If you can just keep putting up more than 20, you'll have a chance. And nope. And they went right back down into the ground. I know that score read 19-27. If you didn't watch the game, which again, I don't blame you. If it was the East Coast, it was like 2 a.m. when they finished up. There was nothing. That score is a complete lie. This game really felt like 40-3, and it should have been. That says a bit about the Seahawks when it comes to not being able to put their boot on a team, but I'm not going to ignore that for now because of how good that whole team is playing. So, Texans Seahawks, not too much to take away from here. I am happy to move on from that stupid game, and we are going to go to my San Francisco 49ers. For the last few weeks, I have not tried to talk about this team too much, like when we win, because I don't want it to just be like a biased rant or whatever. I'll throw it at the end of the pod. And then last week when we lost to Tampa, I gave it some time, and I really did talk about it because, we lost. I can be objective. I can just be objective about it. But this is a game where I need to hype up my team because holy, the Niners win 10-20. I'm going to read off a few quick stats for you. Mac Jones and the passing offense didn't have to do all that much. Put up like 150 passing yards. An interception that was not on Mac Jones in the slightest. And my guy, CMC, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Add on another 70 receiving yards, because why not? That Niners run game is back. And for the Falcons, Penix had like 240 yards. It doesn't read as good as this. The game itself did not read as good as the stats do. Bijan, 14 carries, 40 yards. Yikes. They could not run the ball at all. That offensive line gave him no room to run. And let's go. Quick takeaways for the Niners here. Biggest thing, you can run the ball again. Oh my God. It has been a long time. And it's so weird because it's a Shanahan run team. Our team led by Kyle Shanahan. So they want to run the ball 40 times. And for the first time in a long while, we got that. I think they had like 39 carries in total. But having over 170 yards on the ground, and it was just awesome to see. It's the Niners of old. It's the Niners that I think most people think of when you think of the Kyle Shanahan 49ers. We got that vibe again, which it's not just 100 passes. We can actually run the ball. And a big part of that is, I know this is kind of a, when it comes to the Niners fandom, and you talk about Jake Brendel, the center, there are some people who are very much against him. No one is like in the middle on Jake Brendel. People love him or they hate him. I was of the camp of, let's just say, not being a fan. If you have watched a few of the Niners instant reaction shorts, not a fan of Jake Brendel. And he suffered an injury this game, which, again, you don't wish injury on any player. These are still human beings. And even if you've suffered like a minor injury, you know how much that shit hurts. So like someone pulling like a grade 3 hamstring, just imagine that. It sounds so painful. But when Jake Brendel came out of the game and he got immediately ruled out, Matt Hennessy came in, and the interior offensive line that I have been ruthlessly shitting on for the last few weeks, all of a sudden it worked. It was clean. Connor Colby and Dominic Pooney, who have been putting up really, really bad tape over the last few weeks. Colby looked a little better than Pooney, in my opinion, for the last few weeks, but whatever. All of a sudden, they're doing their jobs. There's holes in the middle of there's holes to tack for CMC, which there hasn't been all year. And there's a difference. It's because number 64 isn't out there. He's not out there giving up on plays midway through, not, being 5 yards back and then looking back like, oh, what happened? What did I miss? Like, no, you could actually run the ball. And Matt Hennessy, my guy, Henny, I don't know if I need to get a custom jersey with number 61 that says Henny on it, but I feel like it after this game. He played so well. I think his pass blocking grade was 97. Whew. And Mac Jones for the first time had time in the pocket. Like one time he's even able to scramble, and which is crazy because he has no speed for one, and then two, he's already broken. He has so many injuries that he's playing through right now. And he was able to run. It was so weird. And if the Niners interior offensive line with Brendel out looks this or keeps playing this well, you have to keep Hennessy in there because it was the biggest problem of the team. Even with all the injuries, the interior offensive line was still the worst part. And if you get consistently good play, or not even good, okay play out of the interior offensive line, the Niners offense can start clicking again. Like we saw, we can get back to 40 carries a game. We can get back to not having to just get rid of the ball in a second and a half when we throw the ball. It looked good. George Kittle made his big return this week. For fantasy players, they're talking about, what return? What return are you talking about? He had 0 points. But that's the difference between just, being a fantasy football guy and actually being a fan of the team. Because, George Kittle was so good. He opened up so many running lanes. There were so many times where they would put him in motion, and then he would run right up the gut, and he would help block with that interior offensive line, and it would just create these huge gaps. And there would be other times where he'd get on the outside and throw blocks. Oh, so nice. So nice to have George Kittle back. And that he, alongside of Matt Hennessy, were the two things that really broke open the run game for the first time in a long time for the Niners. Overall vibes of the game was just it felt like 2019 again, which is crazy because, again, it has been so long since I could say that. We just dominated the Falcons. We dominated the Falcons at their game. The Falcons heading into this week had the number one rush offense in the league, and they had a top 10 defense. And what do? You go make it so they can't run the ball at all. Like I said, Bijan 14 carries for 40 yards. Take away the thing they're best at, and you dominate, and you assert the game based on how you want to play it. Niners came into this game saying, we want 40 carries. That's what they said post-game. Shanahan's like, yeah, this is going to be that type of game. And usually we've had to adapt and go away from that. But this game, we stuck exactly to the game plan. We were able to run the ball down their throats. It was such a nice change of pace after the last 6 weeks. Like I said about Mac Jones, he played okay. He was fine. The thing I think he did really the best was whenever the Falcons would set blitzes, because they send so many. Raheem Morris is a really, really fun play caller. Whenever they'd send blitzes, he'd be really good at identifying them and sort of replacing the ball with where the linebacker was. I don't know if I'm phrasing that correctly, but he'd see, okay, this linebacker is blitzing, I'm going to throw the ball right at that spot. Or this corner is blitzing, I'm throwing the ball at that spot. And we saw that on 3rd and 13 where there wasn't a blitz, but the Falcons only had 10 guys on the field, which I don't know how you say that. Literally the biggest play of the game, and you don't check to make sure you have 11 out there. No one notices that. Yikes. So they had this linebacker, I think it was Caden Ellis, I want to say, and he had to either go guard CMC on a seam or he had to go guard Kittle on a seam. And as soon as he takes one step towards Kittle, Mac Jones immediately gets the ball out towards CMC, and it's a first down that effectively ends the game. The only negative with the whole Niners offense, Juwan Jennings. If you don't know, he made a big offseason stink this year. It was like, I want this contract extension. He had a quote-unquote hamstring injury that magically healed itself come week 1. And you can tell he didn't have a full offseason in because he was getting banged up a bunch before, and now he just doesn't look like the old Juwan. He, had that big spat on the sideline last week with Shanahan, and now it doesn't look right. It's the old Juwan would throw blocks like crazy. He would, get into the head of the other team. He would talk mad shit, and he was one of the most physical players in the entire league. And now he sees the footsteps of a Falcons defender, and he gets nervous, and he drops the ball clean, and he gets picked off for Mac Jones' only pick. I love Juwan. He was one of my favorite players. I have a Juwan Jennings jersey. That's how much I love Juwan Jennings. I bought it after the Rams game when he had 150 yards and 3 touchdowns last year. But I think he needs to get benched right now. It's whether you want to say, if you need to spin it some way, it's the injuries, we need to let him have some time off, or just just to get him back into that dog mentality that we know Juwan Jennings can have. It's just, it doesn't look right, and it's not I think it needs to be Kendrick Bourne and Ricky Pearsall next week. So we'll see. On to the defensive side of the ball, Tatum Bethune. If I had to give just player of the game outside on the defense. I was going to say just in general, and then I forgot, CMC exists. But Tatum Bethune, man. Oh, my God. From his ability to step up. Fred Warner goes down last week, and I think every Niners fan, their soul was crushed. It's okay, well, we're giving up on our hopes for the year. But for Tatum Bethune to come in and play the way he did, he had 10 tackles. He was great in the run game. He popped Tyler Algier one time with Malik Mustafa, and he had to actually get up. It looked like he was injured, but it's like he just had the wind knocked out of him like crazy. Um, he's an enforcer. He's everywhere on the field. Every time a tackle was made, you'd see number 48 involved some way. He was so good. And you could tell he's been prepping for the last few years, like just waiting for his opportunity, and he got it. And I touched on the run defense before, but the fact that you held the Falcons, the number one rushing team in the league, the team that I want to say put up over 200 rushing yards on Buffalo, that dominated Buffalo last week, and you held them to 71? Crazy shit, man. And the Niners defense this offseason was fully built around stopping the run. That's how we addressed the draft. It was you grabbed Alfred Collins, you grabbed CJ West, you grab, who's the name I'm forgetting? I don't know why. Oh, Michael Williams, who hasn't been like super great in pass rush, but in the run game he's been huge. And it's like you see the fruits of that. You see that how good this Niners team can be when it comes to stopping the run, even with Fred Warner out, even with Nick Bosa out. It's crazy. And there's two more guys I really want to highlight, and that's going to be in the secondary. Chase Lucas, who, for non-Niners fans, he had been a preseason standout. He was great in the preseason, but, you could tell that Niners weren't necessarily, like, heading in. They're like, we're probably going to cut this guy. But he played so well that he earned his way onto the 53. And, he was also just waiting for his opportunity. So when Upton Stout goes down on Thursday practice, it's like, okay, here's your shot, man. What are you going to do with it? And he was balling out. Huge play on fourth down. That ended up being the biggest play of the game. That and the 3rd and 13. 4th and 1. Falcons had the ball, down 3. And he fully reads an out route. Clearly just film study. And he jumped it. Could have had a pick 6 actually on that. But it ended up just being bad away. And it was huge because the Niners were able to take the ball, drive it down, and put in the game-clinching score. And the last guy, Darrell Luter Jr., a guy who admittedly I was not high on at all. But for him to step up and play the way he did was huge because the Falcons were targeting him that whole second half. And yeah, he'd give up some catches. Yeah, he'd give up some yards. But he was physical in the run game, didn't give Bijan anywhere to go. One time he actually just fully stuffed him at the line when he was trying to run a route, and that killed the play. And he looked honestly pretty good. Like, especially Renardo Green, who was the guy who came in for, he hadn't been looking his best. So for him to step up and play the way he did, it was great. This whole defense, man, next man up under Robert Saleh. I love it. It's so much fun to see. And big picture for this Niners team, if you can get this consistent run game with the offense, and you can get that interior offensive line play just solid the way it looked this game, and that defensive side, if Tatum Bethune keeps playing the way he is, and you don't feel the loss of Fred Warner as much as we thought we would, and if you can get this production out of the D-line, who, again, has no one. Like, Bryce Huff is the best player on that defensive line, and he was scraps from Philadelphia. And he, by the way, he's, of course, injured. He'll be out for the next 2 weeks. But if you can keep getting this solid-ish production out of the defensive line, Niners are going to be dangerous again, especially come the postseason when they'll be mostly healthy outside of Fred and Nick Bosa. And for the offense as well, getting back Ricky next week, Brock looks to be more of like a 25-75, so probably we're going to see him week 9 against the Giants. Getting Ricky back is going to be huge, especially because Jawan Jennings, again, it's not going to be dependable. So we'll see. I really do want to see this offense when Brock and Ricky come back because I feel like they could take it to a gear that we haven't been able to see with Mac Jones. But we'll see. As for the Falcons of it, I can't just talk about just the Niners, of course, as much as I want to. This offense is like just Bijan. It's weird. Like, you kind of are probably saying to yourself, like, no shit. Well, the Niners offense is just CMC. But at least it's like, if McCaffrey was getting stuffed in the run game, we were still able to pass the ball a bit. L even pass it to McCaffrey. But as soon as the Falcons couldn't run the ball with Bijan, it just felt like there was nothing left as far as that offense goes. Penix, that guy's name. I had a friend of mine. He's like, wait, there's a guy named Penix. Wait, maybe I need to start watching football. And that cracked me up pretty good. But he had, again, his stats really did look better than the way he played because he was like fine. I feel like I'm saying that about a bunch of the quarterbacks this week. It's just like he looked fine, but he didn't win them the game. Certainly just that 4th and 1 where he just threw that really predictable out route too. I mean, it's just I don't know. I feel like Penix could be something that holds him back, at least until he develops. But I mean, in a game where Bijan had 40 rushing yards, they weren't going to win anyways. So if you want to think about it like that, Drake London kind of got locked this game. Whenever he was matched up on Lenore, I think outside of like some really bullshit penalties, you could tell that there was just kind of nothing there. One positive, at least for this Atlanta team coming out of this game, is that Kyle Pitts is actually starting to finally live up to the draft status. He's looked really, really good this season. And this game in particular, he was honestly dominant. What they would do with, I don't know why this took them so long to figure out, but he is a 6'6" essentially receiver. So what they're able to do with him is they just line him up outside and they're able to give him slants. And he's matched up against like a 5'10" corner. Like, what the hell is he going to do about that? And that's how they converted a couple of third downs. It was really, really impressive. And I think that's something that they're definitely going to go back to the well of, because no one in the league has a corner who's like 6'5", ready to go guard Kyle Pitts. Like, no. And you can't just put a linebacker on him because Kyle Pitts is too fast. He's too elusive. So, and he's really, really shifty too. Like, there's something there with that. And I want to see them keep doing that. But just the whole thing with this offense, if they play a team that's really good against the run, like if Tampa gets their shit going and like Vita Vea is messing up their runs, I'm trying to think of other really good run stuffing teams in the NFC, and I'm just blanking. Like the Niners, of course, we just saw that. I'm sorry, I'm fully blanking. But regardless, like any true run stuffing team in the league, it's not going to be good because they're not a team that can just depend on the pass. Atlanta's defense, their D-line is so susceptible to the run game. It's weird. Their offense is fully built around the run, and their defense is built to just stop the pass, which kind of doesn't make, it's a little odd. Their defensive line is just a bunch of like smaller, sort of shifty guys who are really good at getting to the passer. I remember I was talking about this on last week's show, and I was like talking about how Atlanta has like 10 guys who can go get the passer. And that's still very much true. But it looks like they don't have 11 guys who can necessarily stop the run, because their defensive line was getting bullied by an offensive line who has not been able to run block for 7 weeks. I don't know if at the deadline there's going to be a run stuffer available, but if I was Atlanta, I would definitely look into that, or at least in like next year's draft. They just need a big old fucking DT. Sorry. They need a big old DT to come in there and stop the run. They lost Divine Diablo this game, and their linebacker play took a big hit. And if you know anything about Niners football, as soon as there's a weak linebacker in there, Shanahan's going to start licking his chops because he's going to attack him all game, as he did this game. Their blitzes this game didn't work as well as they have in the past. I feel like Mac Jones was just attacking them really well. And here's the thing. They can guard the pass well, but their lack of ability to stop the run is really, really concerning. In my notes, I've highlighted that they're good. They're going to play Atlanta and Tampa, right? Those are their big, contenders for the NFC South. Is them, Atlanta, and now Carolina, which is crazy to say because they're 4-3. But especially like when you look at Carolina, the way they're winning games is just by running the ball like crazy. Like Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard are running the ball really well. So, and with Tampa, of course, whenever they get Bucky Irving back, they can run the ball well. So when you're thinking about that, and that's your division competition, you get to play them 4 times a year. It's not great. And big picture for the Falcons, this is just such a huge loss for them. If you look at, they're coming off that Bills game where it's like 4-2 on national TV. They announced themselves as a real threat in this league, and then to come out and lose to this battered Niners team on national TV and just get bullied the way they did, it's a rough one. It really is, because they could have been 5-2 right now and tied for first place in the division with Tampa, who I think has a tiebreaker on them, but whatever. They'd be 5-2, same record. And instead, now they have the same record as Carolina. I feel like Tampa's very sweat-free, even with that loss. So for them to just lose their identity right after like really staking it last week, it's rough. And we're now back to at least me and the media are back to questioning this team. Moving on, I know we spent a long while on that game. I'm sorry, I had to we had some good Niners football to talk about. We have just a very, very drunk game. Like, similar to the way I was talking about that Texans game. we have the Giants and the Broncos. And before I give a stat read, I feel like the stats I read here would never do this absurd game justice. It was 19-0 through 3 quarters, and in the fourth quarter, Bo Nix and that Broncos offense magically just started to click like crazy, and it was such an absurd fourth quarter to watch. The Broncos offense was moving at will for so many drives in a row, 33 fourth quarter points out of the Denver Broncos, including a game-winning kick, despite the Giants driving down and getting a game in what should have, would have, could have been a game-winning touchdown. Bo Nix, 280 yards and 2 touchdowns, added 2 more touchdowns through the ground, along with 50 more yards. J.K. Dobbins, 14 carries for 81 yards. Solid out of J.K. Dobbins, like it always is. Colts son, Marvin Mims, were able to make some big plays through the air. And for the Giants, Jackson Dart, 283 yards, 3 touchdowns, and one absolutely brutal pick that we will talk about in a sec here. Scadaboo was solid enough. He had a receiving touchdown in this one as well for all of the fantasy players. Still able to do his job. Tyrone Tracy had a really, really nice touchdown that I thought was going to be the killer in this one, but I was a little wrong. And ended up having a little bit of a 33-point fourth quarter out of Denver, so it didn't matter. And for the Broncos, fourth quarter team. I think we've seen enough. They're going to be the cardiac kids. They're going to keep their fans stressed out for games. That's just what they're going to do. They come back like no one else. If you looked at the Philadelphia game from a few weeks ago and now this one, they just love those fourth quarter comebacks. Before we keep talking about the game, I'm going to fast forward to the end of the game where Dre Greenlaw had a very, very odd incident with an official. When it first came out that Greenlaw, by the way, he got suspended. So when it came out that he got suspended for a game, and I saw the clip, I'm like, oh, what the hell is Dre Greenlaw doing? That's my guy. It's my favorite player in the entire league when he was a Niner. And he's barking at this official right after a game-winning kick. I'm like, huh, that's weird. And then we saw the next clip, or not even the next clip. We saw someone else was like, hey, watch number 40 on that play. So as I'm watching it, I see that the referee just fully shoves number 40 for no reason, puts his hands on him, and shoves him back. And I'm like, whoa. And then you can see that's clearly what Dre Greenlaw was infuriated about. Not some offensive pass interference or whatever that they'd called, or defense pass interference that they called earlier in the game. No. He's getting in his face and defending his teammate. And it's like, what the hell, NFL? Really? You're going to suspend Dre Greenlaw in that situation? It was gross. And the referee, Clay Martin, by the way, sucks. He's really bad. He had to get taken off. He and his team had to get taken off the postseason in 2023. And he has drawn up controversy in the past. I really don't like that guy. I hope the NFL pulls back the suspension on Dre Greenlaw, as they should, and we get back, and Greenlaw will play next week. If not, then what else is new? Referees in the NFL just sometimes really do suck. Back to the game. I'm sorry. That's just something frustrating I really did want to talk about. Bo Nix, in rhythm, is really, really good. Sometimes it clicks so well, and other times it looks so bad. Bo Nix and Sean Payton are such a roller coaster. Really, when it's clicking, they genuinely look unstoppable. They look like one of the best offenses in the league. And then when it's not, they look like the freaking Jets. It's such a weird parallel, and we saw it again this game. I wrote down gives me Clay vibes in the weirdest way possible, which is pretty accurate. I talked about the solidness of the Broncos run game, and again, we saw that out of them, 6 yards of carry from J.K. Dobbins. That is something that will really help them in the future, not when they are down by 20 freaking points and need to come back in the fourth quarter. I think that'll play larger roles for him. For the Giants, yikes. I don't know what else to say. You really, really just wanted to hurt your fans today, and that's exactly what they did. That pick by Tart, that was the play that turned the game. I know that he led that really nice game-winning drive with all of the weird penalties, but he led the game-winning drive. Jackson Dart has given them so much life, and it's so painful that the whole team really did just yoink the life out of the fan base back again. I know I'm smiling. I shouldn't be. I can empathize with the pain. False hope is a very, very painful thing, and it was so rough this game to blow a 20-point lead like that, and then if you remember earlier, they had the 5 turnover game against the Saints that they should have won. The Giants right now should be 4-3. They really should be. If they handled business, they're 4-3 right now and in contention for the division. Instead, they are 2-5, and it sucks. It really does suck for them. Jackson Dart's pick was bad, but running prevent defense the way they did with rushing 3 on that team, the way that whole offense has been clicking, really, that's how you want to do it? And of course it got diced up in like 2 plays, because that's just the Broncos offense was on fire, and it was on fire and you gave them gasoline. There was, once I saw that first play come, I was like, yeah, no, this is done. I don't know what they're doing. And you could see Brian Burns was so frustrated after. She's like, are we really rushing 3? Come on. That's brutal. Big picture for the Giants is hurts. It hurts them so bad. Instead of being 3-4 and maybe like potentially making a small move at the deadline to help bolster the team, or at the they're not sellers right now either, but it's such a gut punch for a team that's really talented and for them to be 2-5 right now. And for the Broncos, keep control of the division is huge, especially with Kansas City being on fire right now, staying 5-2. And I think that Broncos defense gets a real test next week against Dallas. It'll be fun to see what they can do. Next, I'm going to talk briefly on this one because it was kind of a blowout. The Colts versus the Chargers. Main reason why I want to talk about this game is because I hope now the Colts are going to get the national media respect they deserve. I am tired of hearing, I always keep an eye on it because this is what I want my job to be, to be a sports journalist. So I'll always keep an eye on what all the national media says, even if I disagree with them most of the time. The Colts were 5-1 and they were getting shit on by people. It was so weird. Like, oh, Daniel Jones is their quarterback, or oh, they shouldn't have that record because if you look at the Broncos game, yada yada. It's no. We can see how good they are. That running game is elite. Jonathan Taylor has 10 rushing touchdowns on the year. He is I want to say number 2 or number 3 in rushing yards. That offense is working like a freaking machine. It's so efficient. Daniel Jones is playing really, really good football. He's super accurate. He's decisive. And everything is clicking so well. Tyler Warren's a beast. Genuinely one of the best players in the entire league right now is a stupid little bootleg or play action. And the play action bootleg where Daniel Jones just runs to right and checks it down to Tyler Warren, because every time he gets 30 yards for some reason. I saw them do it to the Chargers twice, one in each half, where they would just start it off by getting a little casual 30 yards to Tyler Warren. I want to say they have the best red zone efficiency too, or one of the best in the league. They do everything that good teams do right. So they really do deserve some shout out right now. I would peg them as the best team in the AFC, like I did last week when I was doing my tiers. And they really do look like it. They're so good. And I don't envision a magical drop-off coming like other people do, which is stupid. Because they're doing everything well. And that defense, they were holding up for a while there. At the end, the Chargers were putting up some garbage time points. And Justin Herbert got some insane stats by the end of it. But DeForest Buckner was awesome. I love D-Buck. Such a beast. Former Niner, of course. That part hurts a little bit. But hey, it's good to see him do well. And their defense just has to kind of just be solid enough. And at times they've been better than that. But because of how well that offense is playing, their defense is more than enough right now. And I want to say they're missing Charvarius Ward, which is big. Not sure if they have Kenny Moore back, but whenever that defense gets fully healthy, and with Charvarius Ward, who was the number 1 corner for them before his concussion, I think they're going to keep being really fun and a really, really good team. But on the Chargers side of it, these offensive line injuries are brutal. They fully killed their run game. I think they got 10 carries, or not even, they didn't get any rushing yards. A devious blunt rotation of Hassan Haskins and Kamani Vidal is not going to cut it. They need O'Marion Hampton back so bad. And more than that, they need their offensive line to be back off injury. It was good to see Khalil Mack back out there, even though it didn't really affect the results of this one. For the Chargers, they just need time. They need which sucks for them because their division right now is kind of on fire outside of the Raiders, which are literally on fire. But as long as they can just win enough games to sort of keep pace, eventually when they get Joe Alt back and they get a little healthier, I think they can go back to sort of making a push for the division. Although at that point, it may be too late. So we'll see. Last thing I want to talk about, I prefaced this at the beginning of the show. I said that heading into this week, we had feelings about which team were good and we had some feelings as to which teams were bad, but nothing super concrete. And this week gave us some stuff on concrete as far as the bad side goes. The Jets, the Dolphins, the Raiders, and the Titans. These teams are your class of the class when it comes to just being the worst teams in the league. Like, no way around it. There is a clear divider here. Maybe I'm just missing someone, but I looked across all 32 teams. These four have essentially separated themselves in the tier of dog shit, where there is just nothing really positive coming out of these four teams. On the Jets side, let's start with them. 0-7, a winless season for them, for a now co-producer on the channel, Jonah Barron, who covered college for us last week. Or not last week, last show. He's a Jets fan, so sucks for him. Justin Fields is awful, truly, truly awful. He got benched in the second half, and I don't think he's going to keep his starting job. The Jets owner literally came out and said we can't win games with how our quarterback play. With that quarterback play, yikes! Way to just dump it all on him, which, in fairness, he deserves. So, hopefully the Justin Fields truthers are completely gone now. I doubt anyone's left on that bus. They're a team that's going to sell at the deadline, and the good news for them is that they're going to get some pieces back. Or not pieces, but picks. And like overall some talent will come to the Jets in time, because it looks like they're going to trade Jermaine Johnson, which is going to net them a pretty solid pick. Looks like they might move off of Will McDonald, who's also going to net them a good pick. Maybe some of their linebackers. I don't think they're going to trade Garrett Wilson, but maybe like some of their depth receivers. And they'll be heading into draft season with hopefully some good capital so they can just rebuild this thing the way Aaron Glenn wants. Speaking of Aaron Glenn, I don't like his defense this time only held the Panthers to 13 points, which is more than winnable. It's just that their offense is really, really shit. And it's crazy to think like where we were week one, where it's like, wow, Justin Fields looked so good. And, their offense was firing on all cylinders. And it looked like the Jets were going to be a really scary team and a fun team. And instead, here we are at 0-7. They are really, really bad. Dolphins time. My God, that Browns game was bad. You can't catch all the games on a Sunday. So the way I like to do it is I'll watch Red Zone. And then afterwards, whenever I'm talking about like the games here, I'll go back and rewatch those. That's just sort of my way of doing it. It's the way I feel like I get a feel for the whole league while still giving all these games focus. And the Dolphins game was one that I really did not expect to be on Red Zone very much. But lo and behold, they would be on there a good bit because the Browns were somehow running the ball on them, for one. They allowed 3 touchdowns to Quinshon Judkins, who's a beast, by the way. And their offense was so dog shit bad. Like Tua, I think he had negative fantasy points this week, I want to say. Nothing good is coming out of that Dolphins offense right now. It is brutal to watch. Tua is just missing throws. No way around it. His big thing in college was accuracy, and we are so far removed of that right now. Tua needs to be benched. Like, realistically, if he was on any other team in the league, you'd probably bench him. But they can't. He's tied to this team for the next 4 years contractually. I think if they were to cut him, they would now incur the largest dead cap number of any team in the league history when it comes to cutting one single player. So he'll be around next year, as much as Dolphins fans may not like that. And they're another team where I think they'll net some good picks. Not as good as the Jets because their players are just a little older, but like Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb, their edge rushers are going to draw a lot of interest, I presume, from the Niners. If I had to make one guess as to which team would make a trade, I would say the Niners trade for one of the Dolphins' edge rushers. But I think they'll get some capital out of them, and they need a good offseason. And they need to fire McDaniel. Mike McDaniel has been really, really rough for them this year. The Raiders. This is weird because the Jets had kind of low expectations heading in. It was maybe they can be a frisky team, but no one was expecting them to make the playoffs. The Dolphins, I feel like people knew were going to be a shit show heading into the year. But the Raiders, they had hope. They had, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Geno, I thought you could get some regular season wins out of him. But Ashton Genty doesn't work behind this offensive line because I don't think anyone could. And he's been just solid. He hasn't been amazing either. So it's not like it's just the O-line, even though, holy shit, the offensive line's so bad. Geno has been just truly awful. against Kansas City. I want to say the Raiders had 17 plays in the first half to the Chiefs' 21 first downs, which is absurd. Banger tweet of the week. I saw this guy was saying, I finished all the Raiders tape and it only took me 4 minutes and 44 seconds. Because there was nothing to do. Their offense was never out there. And Kenny Pickett finally got some reps, and he fumbled his first snap. So it's brutal for the Raiders. They're another team that's going to sell. I think names to keep an eye on for them are Jacoby Myers. And I want to say someone on their defense who I'm forgetting. One of their D linemen. I don't know why the name's blanking me. I don't know why I'm thinking Adam Butler. I don't think it's Adam Butler. But big name, or at least the biggest name for them is Jacoby Myers. It's not Max Crosby. It's not going to be Max Crosby. They are never giving him up. That man will be a Raider for life. Even if they keep sucking, which is unfortunate because I really do want to see what he can do on a good team. I think he could be so good on a different team, but I don't think we're going to see it because Max Crosby loves being in Vegas, and Vegas loves him, so they have no reason to trade him. That's the type of move where you trade Max Crosby, fans aren't going to be in the stands. So I really don't think they move Max Crosby. And, if I'm wrong, though, maybe he's a Niner. No, I'm not going to be delusional and say he's a Niner. So we'll see if I'm wrong, but I really don't think that Max Crosby gets moved in the next few years. And lastly, Tennessee, a team I feel like had some hope early on. Again, it was like in the Jets' boat of they could be frisky. But Cam Ward has looked kind of steadily worse every week. And this week in particular, he just dropped the ball. And the Patriots picked it up, and that was the big play that turned the entire game around. And it was really what turned into a blowout. You just can't do that. You just can't. Brian Callahan getting fired was the right move for the Titans. I was talking to my Titans fan friend the other day, and it's he was so down on the team. I'm you did at least make the big move. The big move you needed to make was firing Brian Callahan, and you can build from there. But Cam Ward really doesn't look good. But I'm not going to be stupid and, throw the book at him right now because it's his rookie year. It's his rookie year with literally nothing. There's no tools at his disposal. He has no goddamn head coach at this point. His defense now just lost Jeffrey Simmons, which makes it useless, apparently. Who I knew he was good. I knew he was amazing. But I didn't know their whole defense doesn't work without him because, holy shit, they got dotted up as soon as he was gone. And, yeah, so he's kind of working with nothing. It sucks because I feel like I want to say I saw a stat. Every first overall pick had their head coach fired their rookie year. So Cam Ward's just another guy out of that list, and this is just another year where the first overall pick has their rookie season fully wasted. It's stupid. It's really stupid. I don't know how as soon as you get that first overall pick, you don't fire your head coach and clearly start anew, but they didn't, and now they'll pay the price for it this year. Oh, and I saw they cut Tyler Lockett, which hopefully goes to another fun team. Not Seattle. Not Tyler Lockett on Seattle, please. As a Niners fan, I have so much PTSD with Tyler Lockett in the Seahawks uniform. Okay. I think that puts us right around an hour. It's been a fun show. A lot of notes to go through. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to week 8. I will be in Houston, actually, for attending my first Niners game of the year. I'll be watching Niners-Texans in NRG, which, when I initially booked it out, looked like a lot more fun of a game than it will be. Now we're getting CJ Stroud versus Mac Jones, which I thought at least the CJ part would be good, but that's not looking great. So I'll be, maybe I'll be doing a little show from there. But it has been a great time recording. I'm loving the pods. Hopefully you'll get a college football pod soon out of Jonah Barron. But until then, I will see you guys soon for some week 8 discussion.